You think you can walk away from what you owe us? Those were the first words Marlene spat at me that morning, sharp, cold, and loud enough to ripple across the gravel of the church parking lot. I stopped halfway between my car and the back entrance of the community hall. The metal handle of the donation cart was still in my hand, the wheel squeaking from a loose bolt I kept forgetting to tighten. Marlene stood blocking the doorway, arms folded tight, chin lifted in the way she used when she wanted an audience. And sure enough, she'd brought 3 other women from the Tuesday prayer group, all in pastel sweaters and rigid judgment. Behind me, my sister Anna froze mid-step, holding a box of canned goods pressed to her chest. We had just spent 2 hours loading groceries for the food drive. I had barely slept the night before. And Marlene knew it. She always knew everything she shouldn't. "Morning," I said, keeping my voice level. "We're here to drop off the donations." "You're here to pretend," she snapped. One of her friends nodded vigorously, as if they'd rehearsed this. "Pretend you care about this town. Pretend you didn't abandon your mother. Pretend you're something other than an ungrateful disgrace." Anna's arms tightened around the box. I stepped slightly in front of her. The air smelled like car exhaust and overripe summer pears from the small orchard across the lot. A truck door slammed somewhere behind us. Church bells chimed a half-hour warning for the service that would start soon. A few people glanced over, then just as quickly looked away. No one wanted to be caught in Marlene's crosshairs. "You don't get to rewrite what you did," Marlene continued. "Your dad is dead. Your mother is alone. Your family name is in the dirt because of you." There it was, the opening shot. The familiar script. I felt the familiar tightening behind my ribs, that instinctive urge to clench my jaw, to shrink, to apologize for things that weren't mine to carry. But I stayed still, forcing my posture to remain calm, neutral. "Let us through," I said. "That's all." Her lip curled. "It always has to be about what you want." No, it never was, I thought. But I didn't say it. Instead, I gathered the handle of the cart, gently nudged Anna to keep walking, and pushed forward. Marlene didn't move. I had to angle the cart awkwardly, brushing the wheel past her shoe. "You're just proving my point," she said, voice low but vicious. I didn't answer, but that moment, the glaring sunlight, the scrape of the cart, her words hanging in the air, was the last time I let her talk to me like that without consequence. I didn't know it then, but the next few weeks would unravel everything she believed she controlled, and everything I had spent years surviving. Party, conflict and relationships. We weren't strangers, Marlene and I. She had been my mother's closest friend since before I was born. She was the one who drove my parents to the hospital when Anna came into the world. She taught Sunday school. She organized charity events. To everyone else, she was generosity incarnate. To us, she was surveillance with a smile. When I was 12, she slipped into our house without knocking, just checking in. When I was 15, she lectured me in front of the youth group for tempting boys because I wore a tank top in July. When I was 17, she confronted my boyfriend behind the school bleachers and told him I was damaged goods. By the time I turned 21, my father was dead and my mother had effectively disappeared into a haze of church guidance led mostly by Marlene. I moved out. Anna followed 3 years later, but leaving didn't end anything, not in a town where people like Marlene controlled the narrative. For years she made sure everyone knew exactly who we were, what we had done, why our mother suffered, and how we were to blame. It didn't matter that my mother's suffering usually meant sleeping off a hangover or ignoring bills she refused to open. It didn't matter that my father died trying to protect us in ways he never got credit for. Truth didn't matter. Image did. And in this town, Marlene owned image. Part 2, oppression, humiliation, and my rise. It took me a long time to learn not to flinch around her. Years, honestly. The humiliation came in small, cutting ways, the kind that stack on top of each other until you can barely breathe under the weight. Humiliation 1, the grocery aisle incident. I was 23, working 2 jobs and barely managing rent. I ran into Marlene in the cereal aisle. She looked into my basket, ramen, eggs, discount bread, and said, "It must be hard living with the consequences of your choices." I remember nodding, the way you nod when you're trying not to cry. Then she patted my arm as if consoling me. The cashier heard her. The woman behind me heard her. They all pretended they didn't. Humiliation too. The letter, a year later, she mailed a letter to my workplace, not to me, to my boss. She wrote that I was emotionally unstable, prone to inappropriate behavior, and a potential liability. My boss called me into his office, folded the letter carefully, and looked at me with pity. "Whatever this is," he said, "you should handle it." I didn't get fired, but I got watched. Humiliation 3, the funeral. When my father died, Marlene positioned herself at the center of everything. She arranged the flowers. She organized the seating. She even drafted the order of service without asking us. During the eulogy, she stepped up to the pulpit and spoke as if she had been his wife. Afterward, she pulled me aside behind the church, where the grass sloped down to the creek. "You ruined your mother," she whispered. Not shouted. Whispered. "It's your fault your father died," with disappointment in his heart. I walked back into the hall on numb legs. At the time, I believed her, but things changed 2 years after the funeral. I started working at the county records office. Quiet job. Unimportant to most people, but not to someone like Marlene, because in that office, with that clearance, I had access to things she never wanted anyone to see: grant applications, funding requests, expense claims for community projects, property ownership filings, charitable organization audits. And Marlene ran a charity. A small one. A quiet one. A tax-exempt one. And one that, from what I saw, should have been shut down 5 years earlier. I didn't act immediately, not out of fear, but because revenge only matters when its timing is perfect. During that period, I worked on myself. Took evening classes. Saved money. Moved to a clean, bright apartment across the river. Built a life that didn't revolve around surviving other people. The more stable I became, the more her tactics failed. She tried rumors. She tried calling my landlord. She even tried telling Anna's employer that our family had a history of instability. But we were grown now. And she had no legal authority over us. For the first time, she started losing control. She didn't take it well. A final humiliation, and the trigger: 3 months before everything exploded, I attended a community fundraiser at the town hall. I was there because Anna was performing with her college choir. Marlene was there because she was always there. As I walked past her table, I overheard her talking to 2 new church members who didn't know our family history. She said, with the same calm tone someone might use to describe the weather, she abandoned her mother during an illness. Didn't even visit. Some people are born broken. It's sad, really. That wasn't true. What was true was that my mother had faked her own illness to guilt Anna into moving back home. When Anna refused, she screamed until she passed out. She had done it before. But Marlene didn't care about the truth. She only cared about the story this time. Instead of walking away, I sat down at the next table with a journal and quietly wrote her words down, not because they hurt, but because I wanted the exact phrasing for later, for evidence, for precision, for the moment she would finally understand she couldn't rewrite reality anymore. That night, I went home and opened a folder on my desktop I had nearly forgotten about. The one labeled M Projects. The one containing financial discrepancies, repeated personal purchases filed as charity needs, missing documentation, fake signatures, and a list of beneficiaries who didn't exist. I had everything I needed, but I wasn't ready to move yet, because revenge, to me, wasn't just about exposing her. It was about making her realize, slowly, painfully, that the world she had weaponized against us was no longer hers to command. That she couldn't hurt us anymore, that she wasn't untouchable. I wanted her to see it coming. To feel it closing in. To lose sleep over shadows she couldn't name, and eventually, to beg. That morning in the parking lot, the confrontation with the food drive cart, her words like barbed wire, was the final push. When she looked at me with that familiar disgust, I felt something inside me settle, not crack. It was clarity. I walked past her, escorted Anna to the loading bay, and calmly finished unloading the donations. But my mind was already moving, arranging the next steps, placing each piece of the plan into motion, because the moment she tried to shame me in public, she handed me my timing, and from that day on, everything changed. End of Part 2, Transition to Revenge, Part 3 Opening. What Marlene didn't know as she hurled her insults that morning was simple. I had already started. A week earlier, I had requested certain documents from the state office using my official clearance. 2 days later, I had scanned and secured 37 pages of financial irregularities tied directly to her signature. And that same night, I had arranged a quiet meeting with someone she never would have expected, someone she trusted more than anyone. Part 3 begins the moment I receive a confirmation email that would set the entire revenge plan in motion. It arrived at 11:42 p.m. Subject line, verified. Proceed. And that was when Marlene's world finally began to crack.